views and opinions,
and otherwise wisecrack remarks
in this podcast
are solely those
of our highly caffeinated hosts.
They do not represent the opinions
of Fairchild Air Force Base leadership,
the 92nd Public Affairs Office,
or the United States Air Force.
Any reference to commercial products, companies, or services does not imply federal endorsement.
You've been warned. Welcome to the Boom!
The Boom!
Fairchild's weekly podcast talking about the latest Air Force headlines, Fairchild news, and whatever else pops into our heads. Now coming to you downloaded and digitized, we are your hosts. I'm Staff Sergeant D.J. Ayres.
And I'm Tech Sergeant Brian Bender. Alright, well, we're back for round two. We haven't been banned or given any kind of paperwork, so we're just going to keep doing what we did in the first episode and keep things real. So for those of you who listened to our first podcast, a big thank you. We ask for you to spread the word. And a shout out to Tech Sergeant Medina from Finance for commenting on our first podcast, saying, "Great show, guys. This is exactly what we need at Fairchild Air Force Base." And also a shout out to Mr. Robert Tipton. Can I call you Bob? Is that all right? Thanks, Bob, from a civilian working with the Guard, an IT specialist. Gave us an email and said we're doing cool things and he likes it and he wants to hear more. Well, we're here for more. Gentlemen, start your engines!
Alright, so what do we have coming up today? What hot topics can we get everyone talking about?
Well, I think the biggest topic this week that we're going to talk about is Syria and bombing ISIS. Some news, obviously, with that. Big things happening with the Air Force involved in that whole campaign. Let's talk about some new fall TV shows. Bombs, duds, are they going to be good? And then we're going to talk about CFC, the Combined Federal Campaign, and how you can do your part. Also coming up is Oktoberfest is coming to the Red Morgan.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. And then we're going to close it out with some discussion about some things happening in Kunsan. Some of you may have heard some new policy that's taken effect, and if you're on your way out here from Fairchild and heading to Korea for a year, you probably won't know this until you hit the ground, but it may send you for a loop.
And it's not just Kunsan. It is the entire Republic of Korea, also known as The Rock, and it doesn't come with Sean Connery.
That is true. I do want to thank you for clarifying that, because you're correct. It isn't just Kunsan. We've been hearing the news from Kunsan. I think they were the first to get something out about it. But you're correct. It does happen to affect the entire Korean peninsula if you go there. But first... And now the news, according to us.
We are bombing Syria. Do you think that's a good thing? Do you think it's a bad thing? Regardless of what you think, it's happening. And the U.S. teamed up with Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, or Qatar, depending on if you've been there or not, Bahrain, and Jordan. And they're trying to get more and more countries online for this bombing campaign. Tuesday the 23rd, they bombed a lot of high-end targets, or not high-end, they're cars. High-value targets, there we go, like Lamborghinis. And
I'm sure there's a lot of Lamborghinis in that region, though.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot.
Not necessarily in Syria.
The UAE. Al Dhafra. Thursday the 25th, there was more bombings. They bombed some oil fields. Is this, are we making progress? We're stopping ISIS, but the question is, are we helping Al-Qaeda? A lot of people don't realize that ISIS and Al-Qaeda are rivals.
So should we just let ISIS and Al-Qaeda duke it out like gangs and let them kill each other? I mean...
Problem is that they have the same common enemy. We don't want these suckers to team up and be like, hey, you know what, all problems aside, which they won't. We hate each other, but let's team up together against this common enemy. It's like G.I. Joe and Cobra against somebody else.
But what's interesting to mention with those various countries teaming up, I read that the United Arab Emirates' first female fighter pilot is joining in this campaign and bombing the ISIS targets, which makes it very interesting because I believe the belief system of the ISIS terrorists is that if they are killed by females, they would not go to heaven and then get rewarded with the 72 virgins or whatever it is. So my thought is, let's get a lot more female fighter pilots up there and start bombing them to the point where they're like, look, man, this is just not going to work for me. You know, your females are bombing the heck out of us and killing us, and we're not getting our reward in heaven, so here's the little white flag. Just stop sending the female pilots, please.
We should definitely drop some propaganda like we did, like, what was it, the Gulf War?
All the various leaflets saying the females are coming to get you, death from above by a female, and watch them run for the hills. Also, with this bombing that we're doing in Syria, we're getting our first look at what the F-22 Raptor can do. Actually, we know what the Raptor can do. The world is starting to see what our F-22 Raptor is capable of as far as bombing and getting in and out of there. I mean, we've seen the test runs and everything that we've had for the past, I think, 3 years since they've come off the line. But now the rest of the world gets to see, you know, what air power really is about.
And it's kind of gotten a bad rap, so I think it's about time that it, you know, it's like, this is where all your tax money's going. And I think that's probably, this is just my thought. Maybe that's why we're pushing out so much information. I know people want to be informed. People want to know where their tax money's going. And, you know, we're protecting a lot, we're helping a lot of people from those in Turkey and, you know, in Syria itself.
So here's some things we do know regarding this whole bombing campaign. It sounds so funny to call it a campaign because whenever I hear campaign, I'm thinking, vote for me, vote for me. So here's the campaign. We're bombing Syria. Let's bomb Syria. Thumbs up for bombing Syria. So here's what we do know. The airstrikes, not only their airstrikes, but the Navy is playing a big part of this too. Sending those Tomahawk missiles. I'm sure we've all seen it on the news in the night, the Tomahawk missiles from their cruise ships and their destroyers. So airstrikes and cruise missiles are hitting targets in ISIS. The Pentagon is saying it is effective. We do know, I think there was actually word yesterday, or Wednesday rather, that we actually may have struck a high-value leader of the ISIS movement. We do know, like we said, 5 Arab countries which are helping us out, which is actually pretty cool. Usually when we go over there, I think they'd say, well, fine, you can fly from our base, but we're not going to help you out. Now they're actually shooting up fighter pilots, helping us out.
Well, we've trained a lot of these countries. I mean, we've helped them develop their flying programs. So why not give back? I mean, we helped you out, enabled your Air Force to be able to defend itself. So I think they realize, though, that this ISIS thing could easily spread to these other countries. You know, I mean, terrorism, yeah, they target Americans, but, you know, it's anybody who's in their way. And, oh, you train with Americans? You know what? You're a target, too.
So that also brings up questions. We don't know how ISIS is going to respond. We've heard reports that there could be lone wolf attacks, so to speak. We also don't know what other American allies are going to help participate. There's word that the French may get involved because just the other day, ISIS beheaded a French citizen. Well, that about does it for the heavy news. Let's move on to something a little bit lighter. The new fall TV lineup. Now, Ayres, you're admittedly not much of a TV person.
Yeah, I got Netflix and Hulu, but I only watch, you know, select shows. I guess I need to broaden my horizons.
So I'm kind of the TV movie expert. Actually, you're a movie expert.
I like movies more than I like television, to be honest with you.
I kind of like to try to expand around the whole pop culture thing, music, TV, movies. So let's get into it. One new show coming out this fall. It's called Black-ish, starring Anthony Anderson. He's basically the father figure of a family that's trying to come up with its own cultural identity because they don't really seem to have one. It's interesting. He has a biracial wife named Rainbow and a son who wants to be Jewish, even though there's no Jewish lineage, you know, per se in the family. I'm not sure how long this is going to last. One, I kind of wonder if the title Black-ish would turn some people off. Because can you have a show called White-ish?
Yeah, it's called Racist.
Ah.
But seriously, it's not a bad show. I did actually catch the first episode of Black-ish. Anthony Anderson plays this guy who, you know, grew up in the quote-unquote hood. He grew up in, you know, not as good a neighborhood, and he establishes himself, and he's in, you know, corporate America, or as, you know, they're kind of referring to white America. But he's just trying to find his place, and he kind of has that old mentality of the black-white mentality, and he kind of realizes that that's not how life is. And Lawrence Fishburne is kind of that, wacky dad character, but he actually, has some real knowledge, and he kind of shares it with him. And basically said, how do you keep it real? Well, you be honest. And he finally comes to the realization that it's not a black and white world. It's just being different and finding your way in it. So I think the show is not as racially charged as it comes off as. It definitely has a moral fiber and, has a message in it as well.
Comic book movies are big, so NBC is saying, let's get into the comic book business ourselves. They are running an adaptation of Constantine, which is based on the DC Comics series
Constantine.
Hellblazer. And in fact, there was the movie.
Yeah, with Keanu Reeves.
With Keanu Reeves a couple of years ago. And the movie was great. I thought special effects and story-wise, it was really decent.
So is it going to be more like the comic book or more like the movie?
This adaptation is more like the comics, more so than the movies.
Okay, so if you've never heard of Constantine, you've never seen the movie or read the comic books or any of that, basically Constantine is this demon hunter. He basically sends demons back to hell.
He's buying his way out of hell himself.
Basically kind of screwed up. He's kind of that anti-hero character, and the whole series is going to center around that because he loses the... he basically sends an innocent girl to hell, so that's why he's condemned. So it's that good versus evil. He's the good guy playing the evil game.
I'm not exactly sure how you can hold a series.
Well, the original character was also British, which they don't... I don't know, are they going to take the American spin like they did with Keanu?
No, they're actually having a Welsh actor play this, so hopefully there'll
Close
be
enough.
A little bit... a little... we're not exactly aware... we're not able to distinguish English accents. Like, we could tell American accents. Oh, you're from Texas, you're from Kentucky. You get over to England, and it's just like, oh, y'all sound the same. No, I'm Welsh. No, I'm Scottish. No, I'm
What's
Cockney.
crazy is how many accents there are in just London. You can tell what part of London people are from by their accents, and that's wild.
But again, I'm not sure how long a series on a not-so-well-known comic will last.
Well, I mean, look at Arrow. Look how well Arrow is done, and it's not one of the big, DC characters.
It's funny you bring up Arrow on the CW going into its third season, and I've watched Arrow. I love Arrow. I think they did a great job bringing the Green Arrow to life in not a hokey way. Because when you see him in the comic books, the Green Arrow is extremely green. He's got that Robin Hood feathery cap on his head.
Well, with comic book movies and television shows and that sort of thing, they couldn't do those same costumes because in real life they look ridiculous. Look like Wolverine or any of your other comic book heroes, they would just look off if you saw them that way. And that was one of the big challenges, bringing that look to comic book movies and TV shows, I guess, too.
So what they've given up on, from what we see in the comic books and you see in cartoons, is they've given up on the spandex and leather. Leather seems to be the thing. The Arrow wears leather, his sidekicks wear leather, and the new lineup, if you are an Arrow fan and you watched the end of Season 2, they hinted at Barry Allen, The Flash. And in fact, The Flash is premiering October 7th on the CW, and I've seen the pilot episode. I downloaded the pirate episode. Oops, wait.
The pirate episode?
Freudian slip. I downloaded the pilot episode and watched the first episode of The Flash, and there's a slight deviation from the DC Comics, but if you love Arrow, you are going to love The Flash. And his suit looks different, not too different, but obviously subdued from the bright colors you see in the comic books. Again, it's leather, and also the origin of how he becomes the Flash is slightly different, but if you can overlook that, I think this series is going to take off and be just as big a hit as Arrow. Comic books in TV seems to be a big thing because also just premiered this week on Fox, Gotham. Gotham is the origin story of future police commissioner Jim Gordon. I mean, it's like before Batman Begins. You could almost say Batman Conception. I mean, we're seeing Bruce Wayne at 11, so apparently with this series, we're not even going to see any kind of beginnings of Batman. It's all about Jim Gordon.
I watched the movie. I'm not a big DC fan, but I know, roundabout. I've watched the Batman movies. I read a few comic books when I was a kid. So did the Joker really kill Bruce Wayne's parents?
That's the thing that I've heard with Gotham is in almost every episode there's going to be some sort of side character that you wonder, is this the Joker? I saw the season premiere, and there's a stand-up comic in a club that is trying to do his routine, and he's being interrupted by a gang boss. So you begin to wonder, oh, maybe this guy's going to be the Joker. Moving along, now we're out of the whole comics on our TV. Trying to think of something that's coming up that should sound good, something funny. Say this with me, Mulaney. Have you seen the clips for Mulaney?
Yeah, I've seen some of the. I don't think this one's gonna last. I mean, it just doesn't hook. But you know what? I've said that about other shows, and they're still going.
But as far as Mulaney goes, I see it as a Seinfeld redo. You know, I don't. But not as good as Seinfeld. It seems like he's rehashing Seinfeld, trying to imitate and copy Seinfeld, and I'm not sure it's going to work.
I mean, that seems to be the name of the game in entertainment, is copy something that somebody else has done and try to make it better. If you really look at it, even though the stuff we've been discussing, nothing's really original. I mean, people aren't being as original as they used to. I mean, we're still entertained. I don't know. I like to see something new and fresh, and maybe that's what they're trying to do, but like you said, it's got that Seinfeld feel to it. The show about nothing.
And speaking about, you were just saying rehashing the same things over and over again. NCIS New Orleans. That's right. NCIS moving to the Big Easy.
Is that Narlands?
Narlands. But here's the thing. How many CSI shoot-off type shows do we need? How many NCIS shows are we going to need? I mean, these type of shows, I think, are just getting old. You're just rehashing the same criminal aspect shows over and over again.
They're trying to give the people what they want. These shows fizzle out when people don't watch them. So, I mean, I watched CSI when it first came out because it was something new. It was something fresh. But eventually I got kind of sour on that show, and then they offshooted so many different types. I don't know. They just don't hook me like they used to. I don't know. I just, that's probably why I've steered away from TV. You know, there are a few shows that I kind of hold on to. I was a big Dexter fan. I was kind of sad to see that series go, but...
And that was a show that I never really got into. I don't even think I've watched any episode of it. It just didn't seem to be the type of show.
Well, it's the serial killer is a good guy. And I liked that kind of, you know, good versus evil, but all kind of contained in one person, because he only killed bad guys. But he worked for the cops, so it has all these different facets. You know, him trying to be a good person, but he's still feeding that serial killer want. So that's, I mean, it's probably why it was never really on regular television, you know.
And that's why I love Netflix, because maybe I'll pick that up. Another show that might have some interesting modern-day appeal is a show called, believe it or not, Selfie. It's a modern-day spin on Pygmalion. And for those of you who don't know, Pygmalion is a play that has been adapted into movies like She's All That, Pretty Woman, and throwing it way back there a long time ago to My Fair Lady. And it's about transforming yourself into something other than yourself. And Selfie.
Well, that really explains it.
It really clears it up, doesn't it?
I think it's more the idea of, you know, look at Pretty Woman. It's that she was this, you know, prostitute, and then she became this, you know, beautiful debutante kind of woman, and that's where Selfie's kind of going. It has that, you know, she was this nerd in high school, and now she's this top executive kind of girl.
Who's obsessed with herself, and apparently she does something really embarrassing, gets all over the social media world, and she hires a marketing expert, John Cho, Sulu from the Star Trek movies.
Also Harold and Kumar.
There we go. And to help refine her image and to erase this smudge on her social media past. So it's very interesting because it's this poking a stick at look at our culture today and how we're so obsessed with ourselves and our 15 minutes of fame. All right, well, I think we've really drudged some of the TV shows through the mud, but again, a couple of the highlights that we're looking forward to are The Flash and Gotham and possibly this Selfie. But one way not to be selfish and self-centered is by donating and contributing to the CFC, the Combined Federal Campaign. It's been running all this month of September, in case you haven't had any of your representatives come out to your offices to let you know. And it's actually running this entire fall/early winter period. The CFC will not be over until mid-December.
What is the CFC?
The CFC is basically the world's largest, most successful annual workplace charity campaign, with hundreds of various national and international charities that we as federal employees can donate to. And it's super easy. It's filling out a form that can be an allotment coming from your paycheck, and it really does exemplify that whole Air Force core value that we have of service before self. This is an easy, fast way to contribute to a charity without dumping ice on your head.
Well, exactly. And I know if you haven't heard of the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, you must
It's not the Airman Leadership School Ice Bucket Challenge.
Yeah, that floated around too. I did see something on Facebook about that. Some very intelligent airman was like, I don't get it why they're all donating money to the Airman Leadership School. You know, the Air Force must be really hurting for money. But anyway, going back to, people were doing the Ice Bucket Challenge and they weren't donating the money. They were just doing it for the attention, which is ridiculous. And the CFC gives you an opportunity to donate to people who actually need the money, or organizations that can use the money to help other people. Your CFC rep will have a big book that will have a lot of charities and descriptions, and I think there's something you can ask them to where it is online as well, so you can find the charity that you feel like giving to and know that that money is going to go to that charity.
For me, every year, I look for something to deal with the Alzheimer's, because my grandfather passed away from that. And then I also look for something to do with diabetes, because I myself am a type 2 diabetic. So there's hundreds, like I said, out there, and just pick your interest, pick something that you really want to help out with monetarily, and go for it. So if you have any questions, you can contact First Lieutenant Logan Barlow at 247-8115, or Master Sergeant Julia Madison at 247-4757. So, hey, step up to the plate and give to CFC.
And make a difference in someone else's life.
And now, something completely different. It's that time again. It's Oktoberfest.
Oktoberfest?
Oktoberfest, yeah.
Das ist good.
Das ist very good. So Oktoberfest, not only is it just coming to the area, to the region, it is coming to Fairchild at the Red Morgan Center next Friday. So that's the first Friday, I want to say it's the 3rd or the 4th. Either way, it's the first Friday. And it's going to be held towards the end of the day. So yes, you can participate fully in Oktoberfest and have some beers.
With that in mind, have a designated driver.
It's all about responsibility. And
because nobody wants to show up in blues on a Saturday.
Yes, do not be that guy.
I mean, of course, there's also the risk of harming yourself or others, and nobody wants that.
So speaking of Oktoberfest, let's get into a little trivia. Where did Oktoberfest start? Yes, you with your hand raised down in the middle.
I'm the only one sitting here.
Don't raise your hand then.
Oh, Germany.
Yes, obviously.
Have you ever been to Germany?
I have not.
I have, fortunately.
I want to. Did you say unfortunately or fortunately?
I said fortunately. I was actually born in Germany.
Oh, yes.
I was born in Würzburg on an army base. My parents were military, so.
All right, well then, Ayres, I'm going to quiz you. Since you've been to Germany, I'm sure you've celebrated a few Oktoberfests. What should you say cheers? How do you say cheers?
Prost.
Prost. Very good, very good. Nice job. According to the rules of Oktoberfest, the beer must be what?
Not green.
Well, not green is good. Either A, saluted by the crowd, B, aged in a barrel 15 years, C, from one of Munich's 6 breweries, or D, accompanied by a giant salty pretzel.
I think it started in Munich, right? I think it started in Munich, so I would assume that it would be probably for one of the breweries there.
You are correct, sir.
I like pretzels though. But you can have one of the beers from the 6 breweries and a pretzel. Are we going to do that at Oktoberfest here? Are we going to honor that rule? Though?
I'm hoping there's pretzels at this Oktoberfest. Hint, hint out there if you're planning that. Which city is home to the America's largest Oktoberfest celebration?
Ooh.
L.A., New Orleans, Miami, or Cincinnati?
I'm going to go with Cincinnati.
Yeah, just from, I think, process of elimination right there, you can pretty much determine that, well, L.A. and Miami are going to have big Hispanic cultures. New Orleans is French
and Cajun and that sort of thing.
right. So yeah, by process of exactly, Cincinnati. Very good.
I heard they have really good chili in Cincinnati too. I know that's unrelated, but I heard that somewhere.
Chili and beer. And pretzels.
I mean, you're going to probably do German, like the bratwurst, that sort of thing.
Right. Why did the original Oktoberfest take place?
I would think to honor the beginning of fall.
Close. It was actually held in 1810 at a horse race in honor of a royal wedding.
I like my answer better.
I mean, it does make sense. It's nice to honor fall with a nice beer.
Because we're going right into fall. I would think to bring in fall. That would make sense to me. But weddings and all that too.
So 2014 marks the 181st celebration of Oktoberfest. And for those of you who've been in the Fairchild area for a while, anybody been to Leavenworth?
I haven't been to Leavenworth.
Yet. You're planning on it. I have been to Leavenworth. I went to Leavenworth actually over the July 4th weekend. And if you haven't been to Leavenworth yet, which is about 2.5 hours to the west of us, it is a sight to behold. The entire town is Bavarian themed, and there's beer gardens, there's nutcrackers, there's people dressed up in lederhosen. I mean, the whole town is based on this Bavarian tourism, and all throughout the year, they hold some sort of festival or another, and obviously Oktoberfest, if you can get there and through the traffic,
I imagine it'd be packed.
Yeah, and I know the ITT does bus trips out there, but I believe the time has passed to register for that. So for those of you who found out about that and are getting on the bus tour to go to Leavenworth for Oktoberfest, good on you. You'll have safe transportation to and from, so you can have all the beer you want. Speaking of having all the drinks that you want, some news from the Korean Peninsula. Random news.
Korea. So I guess all the commanders in the bases located in Korea decided to, at least all the Air Force commanders, decided to change the rules a little bit. They instituted a rule saying that all airmen within the first 30 days of their arrival in the Republic of Korea may not purchase or consume alcoholic beverages.
And let's clarify. This is airmen with a big A. So this is everybody from Airman Basic to Chief Master Sergeants to even your officers. When you land boots on the ground in Korea, your first 30 days, you can't have a drop of alcohol. So my question is this something that we really think is going to be effective? I mean, for those of you who've been to Korea and have come back, did you see alcohol as a problem? Have you been to Korea?
I've never been to Korea.
Neither have I. So we can't exactly speak from
first-hand
experience.
I've heard stories, though, you know. I hear a lot of people do go there, and they do like to, take part in, the bar scene. And I think that's the problem there.
I see the problem as not treating adults as adults, able to make their own rational decisions and then take responsibility for their actions.
And it is that group punishment kind of theory, too. If you think about it, it's 30 days. I mean, that's not that long.
But the question is after 30 days... But my question is, after 30 days, are they going to be like, woohoo, I'm going to go out and get hammered tonight? And then blow it after,
Well, I think if that's your mentality, I think there's a bigger problem. And maybe this 30 days was good for you. I mean, it's those people that are, it's really, I think it's really, truly affecting those people that are abusing, that are drinking too much alcohol.
The 7th Air Force commander, he basically encouraged airmen to take ownership. And he emphasized the importance of leadership, but he added it's the leadership of immediate supervisors and individual sponsors of the newly arrived airmen with a capital A that will determine the success of each unit. So now, not only when you get here for those first 30 days, I've been here 3 months, I can have a drink, but I've got to hold your hand and make sure you don't have a drink. again, that's just like, really, can we not be adults about this?
Well, apparently they weren't being adults about it. I mean, if people were abusing, I don't even know what's the drinking age there. Does it say? It's probably like 18 or 19 years old.
It probably is very young, and that's understandable that young kids who aren't able to drink legally over here in the States get the opportunity to try out the whole culture of drinking in Korea.
Well, the real question is it the airmen, the 26 and under crowd that's the problem with the the whole drinking atmosphere, or is it just something that everyone's having a problem with? I would assume that it's a larger problem that they have to blanket across all military, all Air Force that are arriving on station. I mean, in Germany, when I was stationed there, 18 is the legal drinking age, and it wasn't as big a problem there. Of course, you're going to have some alcohol-related incidents, but it wasn't, so much that they had to institute a new rule.
Speaking of alcohol-related incidences, what if, here's the question, Fairchild, what if such a policy was implemented here? What if for the first 30 days upon arrival of Fairchild, no matter your rank and time in service, we implemented a no drinking for the first 30 days? Because Fairchild's kind of out in the sticks, as I like to say. Just there are a lot of things around to do, and I think young airmen and people who are looking for something to do quickly, go for the alcohol. So is that something that maybe not just Fairchild-wise, just implemented everywhere across the Air Force? Your first 30 days at a new duty station until you get acclimated to whatever the mission is, no drinking.
But how would they enforce that, though? That's the real question. And how are they... I wonder how they're enforcing it in Korea. I think that we'd probably need to find out from, someone there. Is it, is there something on your ID or something? Or do you have to show something to, buy alcohol? Or is it on the honor system? Is it that integrity issue? I would just think a lot of people here at Fairchild, they live off base. Your airmen live in the dorms, but...
Well, according to what I'm reading, the DBID system, the Defense Biometric Identification System, in Korea serves as the system of record to track that 30-day. So when they come onto base and they scan their card and it says, oh, he's day 10, but I'm smelling alcohol on him, well, crap's going to hit the fan.
That makes sense. And I know when I was stationed in Turkey, they scanned your ID when you left the base, and they scanned your ID when you came back on the base, too. So maybe that's how they do it there?
It could be. I know that would just be a big use of resources at our gates for the number of people that come on. And then obviously, I think a base is bigger than us. So maybe you guys are discussing around your workplace. Maybe you want to drop us a comment. You can comment on our Facebook. You can drop us a line at our email. And we'd love to hear from you. So tell us what you think. Tell us what you want to hear from us. What kind of topics are on your mind that you would like us to discuss and bring to the table. All right, well, that concludes this edition, the second edition of Fairchild's podcast. We hope you enjoyed it just as much as the first one. And if you didn't get to listen to the first one, obviously you can go find us on our podcast page. We also put it on a YouTube playlist. Or you can find us on iTunes by searching The Boom Fairchild or Fairchild The Boom. But we're on iTunes. Until next week, Fairchild, I'm Tech Sergeant Brian Bender.
And I'm Staff Sergeant D.J. Ayres.
Thanks for listening to The Boom
Podcast.